here we have a diorama uh, for the First Marine Division at the Chosin Reservoir. This is I wouldn't say they were retreating. They were merely attacking in a different direction.
I think that's
So,
yeah.
uh, but it was the dead of winter in North Korea, and it was really incredibly cold. We probably lost more casualties to the cold than we did to actual North Korean attacks. But it was a pretty crazy thing.
I want to make a note here too that while the World War II galleries were very well lit and designed, they did not have atmospheric sounds, and the Korean and Vietnam galleries do. So certainly, if you're going to visit and that's going to cause any issues for you, just be aware of that.
We've seen this vehicle before, the M7 Priest. This is actually an upgraded version to give the gun more elevation to be more effective in Korea because of the very high mountains. But this particular vehicle here is dedicated to the Wyoming National Guard. When the Wyoming Guard artillery unit deployed to Korea for the Korean War, members of the unit took a highway. They borrowed it, a highway sign, and they would emplace it everywhere they went. And to this day, every time a Wyoming National Guard unit deploys overseas, they are actually issued a sign by the Wyoming Department of Transportation to take with them. So a little nod to Wyoming there with the cowboy. And then here we have the M26 Pershing. Fun fact, this is the tank that is represented on the United States Army's armor branch insignia. So this is designed to replace the M4 Sherman, which it did. Although it was limited to use in Korea, basically because of its weight. Okay, so we have here the Bell UH-1B Iroquois, also nicknamed the Huey helicopter. It actually got the nickname Huey because the original designation was not UH, it was actually HU. The Army changed it later on. It was helicopter utility, and so they changed it to utility helicopter.
But this nickname is stuck.
But the nickname stuck because it was HU-1, and so it was Huey.
Got it.
So that's where the nickname came from, although the actual official name is the Iroquois. And this particular helicopter is actually served in Vietnam. It was originally owned by the Army, later transferred to the Navy. And if you look carefully at certain locations, you can actually still see repaired bullet holes. I don't know how well they're going to show up on the camera, but you can definitely see them in person. Nod to our firefighters. So we have it's going to be forcible entry emergency rescue truck. So this is designed to be able to rescue air crews from crashed airplanes.
Oh,
so
nice.
you can see they got the firemen in the reflective suit to be able to go into flames to be able to rescue them. And you can't see it, but it has a large winch on the front also. They would nickname this the Red Bug. Okay, here we have a collection of ambulances from the Vietnam era. So we have the smaller Jeep. This could carry 3 litter casualties in it. And then we have a larger ambulance right here. We have a number of videos and tributes to women in Vietnam. So it's a nice tribute to women entertainers and Red Cross volunteers and nurses who served during Vietnam.
One of my classmates in high school, his mother was a nurse in Vietnam, and she was actually part of the committee that designed, instituted the memorial, the Nurses Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Okay, and here we have the nod to convoys in Vietnam. So you understand, because it's always about logistics. And so it says that over 80%, Vietnam was considered a helicopter war, the first major helicopter war, but over 80% of supplies were still transported by truck.
Yeah.
Just aircraft can only carry so much, and they're very constrained by weight.
And again, let's do scale, because the ones in the World War II gallery are all removed from you and up on a dais. So I'm going to stand next to this so you can see scale again. I'm 5'3".
Yeah. Yep, you can see that these are not small trucks. Now, to defend these convoys from Vietnamese attacks, this is actually a replica of a gun truck that was built with input from Vietnam veterans. But the army, the soldiers would basically take trucks and modify them to be able to serve as gun trucks, and they actually would have a fairly large number of them. They actually ended up doing this also again in the early days of Iraqi freedom. And, I was in Kuwait in the early days of the Iraq War, and we loaded a number of trucks that were returning back to the U.S., and one of which was it's called a het. It was basically a large truck transporting truck that they detached the trailer from it and put a huge metal gun tub on the back, and they would mount machine guns on that and use that as a convoy protection. So there's only one remaining gun truck from the Vietnam area, one legitimate truck, and that's located at the Army's Transportation Museum in Fort Eustis, Virginia.
Oh my gosh.
But they generally didn't bring them back.
Okay, yeah.
They would run them until they fell apart or got damaged or destroyed, and then they would rebuild a new one. And we have an armored car. These are generally used by the Air Force, is the V-100. They're not particularly popular. It's like all the drawbacks of a tank, but few of the benefits.
Yeah, they called him a coffin on wheels, which is not a moniker you give to something you like.
Correct. We have a few of the more modern Jeeps. This particular Jeep is actually mounted with a mine roller on the front. It's a pretty rare example. Can't imagine that did the engine or transmission any good. Oh, and this, then the Gamma Goat.
So we want to share. So yesterday, one of the docents was walking around and he shared about this one, and he said this is actually in mint condition because it has been sitting in a facility. It's been sitting in like a garage basically for 60 years. Like it was never delivered to the Army, and that's why it's in such pristine condition.
But this was apparently a maintenance nightmare. As you can see, it just looks very complicated, and for being manufactured in the 1960s. And lest you think this museum is strictly just vehicles, we do have a number of clothing displays as well. Okay, we're continuing on with the Vietnam era. This is the M551 Sheridan. This is a light tank that the Army deployed to Vietnam. It was very, very, very mobile.
Really?
Yes. So it maneuvered through the jungles very well. Unfortunately, it was very lightly armored,
Problematic.
so which is problematic. It had a large, uh, it had a 152 millimeter cannon on it. You can see a very short nosed one though. But this cannon, it was incredibly complicated for its day. It was also designed to be able to fire a missile through it. Yes, they did not deploy the missiles to Vietnam. But it would fire the gun. You can see the tank has 5 road wheels on it, and when that main gun would fire, it would rear back, so 3 of them were in the air.
No,
Yes.
that's not stable.
Yes. Which would cause all kinds of other problems. And we have the M114 armored reconnaissance vehicle. It looks like like the common M113, but with a chopped off roof, although that is actually not the case. But these were not particularly popular. They weren't as roomy inside. And they're mechanically unreliable. Its most successful use proved to be as a target vehicle on live fire ranges in the 70s and 80s. These were actually prized. Like hot rodders in the U.S. loved the engines on these.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so these would be towed out to the ranges to be used as targets, and the local hillbillies would try to like sneak onto the live fire ranges and steal the engines out of them.
It's always a good idea to not go on a live fire range.
Well, what is being shooting is happening. Yeah. Okay. So then we have this was the interesting bit, is they kind of take you through a mock-up jungle, if you will. And then you get a couple of stations where they'll show you some examples of some of the traps and booby traps that soldiers during Vietnam would encounter.
It's all lit very darkly, so I don't know if you can see this, but if you press the different buttons, you can see the different booby traps and the different things that they had. So there is a way to bypass this if this is disturbing.
Yeah. We'll cut through here. Okay. And so here, then they've done is they recreated a section of a Vietnam era fire base. And so fire bases were basically designed for artillery pieces to be able to position to support the maneuver troops. So it gives some nice, interesting examples of what things would like and how things would be set up. So we have the M109 howitzer right here. This is still being used in the Army today. They're on the 7th iteration, or the 7th major upgrade of it. So it looks very different, although you can see a lot of similarities when you see the two together. We live near Camp Williams, which is a Utah Army National Guard base, and they actually have 2 of the newer ones on display. Static displays out in front, so I drive past these fairly regularly. So in the later parts of the museum, they did a much better job but they try to make the displays a little more comprehensive.
Yeah, I think they lay over the audio, and they also do a little bit more about some of the other parts, not just the vehicles, but the uniforms and
they try to make it a little more just instead of like here's a tank,
right.
But you kind of put them in more of a story and more of a diorama.
Yeah, putting into context a little bit more.
Yes.
And then also overlaying like what was happening back in the U.S., overlaying what was happening back on the home front and everything. So, I mean, I would just say that the Korea and Vietnam galleries have a different feel to them than the World War II galleries.
Yes. Yep. So we have here, this is the M48. This is made up as a Marine Corps vehicle. So we're at the Battle of Hue. exhibit, which you may recognize from the latter half of Vietnam movie, Marines, basic training kills the drill sergeant.
Apocalypse Now. I
No, the Stanley Kubrick one.
don't watch Stanley Kubrick films. Full Metal Jacket.
Yes.
I don't want to miss this guy because I love the story of this guy.
But the mule?
The mules.
Uh-huh.
So this is like a platform truck that they use to just haul a bunch of stuff. And I love the story about this because they loved these, and when they were given Humvees, instead they were like, no, we'd rather have this. And I love the story of like being presented with a Humvee and saying basically, no, could I have a piece of metal strapped to 4 wheels? I would prefer that.
Okay, but this is a kind of a cool one, the M50 Ontos. There's only a handful of these left. I said this is only 16 are remaining, and this is one of 2 early variants. So fairly rare. You don't really see these anywhere. As this is a tiny little armored vehicle with 6 recoilless rifles mounted to it. And what you can't see is right up here up top of this one barrel is the spotting rifle. So it would drive up, it would fire that rifle, that tiny one shot rifle, as a targeting mechanism.
Oh.
So then you could adjust off of that, and then you would fire the actual recoilless rifles at that location.
That's smart.
So that apparently very fast and very maneuverable, and it would basically just drive in, unleash the 6 barrels, and then back out again before it could take any return fire. But the army did not like them, and the Marines loved them. Okay. So here we have 2 Navy Riverine boats. This one right here is the Strike Assault Boat, or STAB. Yeah. He's kind of. I think they just came up with the cool acronym first and said, okay, well, what words can we fit in to make that acronym work? We got this, but we're gonna call it a STAB. Okay, strike. Yeah. We all know that's how it went. These are used in in riverine operations in Vietnam. You may recognize this one behind us from the movie Apocalypse Now. Or possibly even the superior flick, Hot Shots Part 2.
Yes.
The PBRs are kind of interesting right here. It actually uses a jet propulsion designed by Jacuzzi. So it did not have traditional propellers. It uses a water jet exhaust. I guess like a current Sea-Doos.
Oh, okay.
And such. So it's not actual propellers. So this could operate in as little as 2 feet of water. So we can't see it too well as far as the jet exhaust, but we see the lack of propellers. So this is a early Dodge touring car built somewhere between 1914 and 1923. So this particular car was manufactured in 1921, and it's identical to the 3 1916 Dodge touring cars that were taken or driven by George Patton during the Mexican incursion in 1917.
And they have Pershing.
Or 1916, 1917.
They have a picture of Pershing in front of his.
Yes.
And I've been to his birthplace.
Yeah, well. And actually, Patton was leading 3 of these cars, and when he engaged in a brief gunfight and captured several of Pancho Villa's lieutenants nearby Rancho San Miguelito. So it was the first mechanized combat action in the history of the U.S. Army.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, Erica wants special attention paid to this little guy right here.
Okay, first of all, you need to know that the explanatory plaque for this one is missing, but Greg was like, "Oh, it's a
It's a 1917 Renault tank."
Which, of course, everyone knows.
Right.
But look at the interior. Look at this tiny little metal seat that is about 2 inches off the ground with all of these metal things. Also, it looks like somebody is about 4 feet tall to be able to do this. And then the little sling you sit in the back to fire. This thing is bonkers.
But this is one of the first tanks used by the U.S. military. Or its first model. We don't know exactly. It's the history of the actual vehicle. Here we have one of the first trucks acquired by the U.S. military. This is known as a Liberty truck informally. This is one of the standardized truck designs used by the U.S. Army during World War I. It's kind of fascinating to see just the design differences. Mm-hmm. And look how flat that steering wheel is.
Yeah.
And the pedal design is also fairly fascinating. The design differences between modern trucks and trucks from 100 years ago is quite surprising. Solid rubber wheels. So here we have the Alice Chalmers M7 snow tractor. This is developed as a mountain and winter search rescue vehicle to be deployed to Alaska during the war, World War II. And after the war, this was used as a prototype for the first civilian snowmobiles.
You can see that.
Yeah.
Only 30 of these survived.
Oh. Okay. And we got some Jeeps here. But this is one of the more fascinating pieces over here. This is a half track. But you see, some of the vehicles here are really well restored. But they kept this one in its original condition with all the markings. This is actually returned from World War II. And then put into storage. It was basically removed from the inventory and acquired somehow. You got to say that there's one thing that kind of disappointed us about the museum is the lack of any displays about how they acquired some of these vehicles.
I would love the backstory.
I would love to see some of the if they had any interesting backstories about how vehicles were acquired. I think that would be a really neat addition to the museum.
Yeah, I'd love a behind the scenes on how they acquired some of these.
But this one was kept in original condition, so you can see kind of how worn out and rusted it is, which is a pretty cool addition.